Hi everyone, my name is Gabriel and I am a mental skills consultant. Before getting in, I want to say sorry if my voice cracks a bit or I choke up a bit. I'm getting better from the flu. I had the flu for a couple of weeks, and it's been rough, but I'm slowly getting better. But hopefully, I won't choke up that much. So before getting in, into talking about what we're going to talk about today, and what we're going to be working today, what are mental skills? What do they do? What is sports psychology? So, just to put it into context, basically, sports psychology is understanding how there's psychological factors that affect performance. We all know about the physical aspects, the physical training, the strength, the resistance, how agile you are. There's a world to it, a bigger world, and that's, one of them is mental skills, which is basically what we're talking about. They could be focus, concentration, your nerves, your anxiety, your motivation, and they all somehow fall into place together in order to prepare you mentally to give your best performance, just as physical factors. We can't only work with our physical aspects that we need to train. We also need to train our mind in order to give our best performance, and that is precisely what we're here for. That's precisely what mental skills consultants do. They work with the clients and the athletes to little by little train their mind and train the certain aspects to improve their performance for an optimal performance. So which one are we going to talk about today? There's so many. Today we're going to be talking about goal settings and goals per se. So what are goals? We've got to establish that before going in. Goals are basically an objective or an aim for a task within a time frame. Remember that part of time frame because it is insanely important for this process. And it's also important to mention that these goals can be either individual or they can be as a team, collectively, etc. So, just going to bring a basic theory or a basic part of literature that supports this, and it's Loke and Latham from 2002. And it's a very supportive lecture or readings on how goals influence, and they mention it to be in 4 ways that it just basically sums up what mental skills are and how they affect the performance and how training these will make them better. And the first one is direct attention, and this is talking about goal setting. And notice how what I'm going to mention right now relate to one another for an optimal performance. So getting back to it, the first one, direct attention. Making goals, having a goal setting, it basically helps our focus. And as we stay focused, we'll have better performance. Excuse me. So, direct attention, as I was saying, we stay focused, and it helps us stay focused in achieving the goal we want to achieve. Mobilize effort. It keeps us going, it keeps us motivated, it keeps us wanting to achieve that goal that we're aspiring to achieve. And the next one is basically around the same lines, and it increases this effort and persistence. The persistence part is the key of of how it's different, and it's basically the aspect of not wanting to give up on your goal and keeping you set and keeping you pushing through no matter the bad times, the negative thoughts, and it keeps you just simply pushing through. And the last one is develop and employ strategies, which is personally my favorite and what I think is the most important one, because these goals, if you want to, let's say, I'm going to use myself as an example. I want to one day be the best chess player in Puerto Rico. How do I achieve that? I need to develop strategies and different ideas of how I'm going to achieve it. And basically one key example would be I would do a certain amount of puzzles to achieve this goal. Now going back, there's 3 different types of goals that we need to keep in mind, and the first one would be outcome goals. This outcome goals are basically focusing on the result of the performance. Let's say we're track and field runners wanting to end up in first place. That goal is like, I want to win. and that's basically the outcome goal. And we gotta note that it's not really in the athlete's control, because we also need to depend, or we're also the goal is the outcome. Sorry, is dependent on the other athletes as well. The second goal we have to keep in mind are performance goals. This goal is a bit different because this goal we do have some type of control, and this goal is simply wanting to improve your own performance. Following the example of track and field, a performance goal could be you running your 100 meters in 11 seconds and being like, oh, I want to do it in 10 seconds. You want to improve that goal, and there you're improving your own performance, hence the reason for a performance goal. But we have to establish that even though it sounds like it's in your control, there are some other sports where it's not entirely in your control. For example, gymnastics. Gymnastics are dependent on a judging score, so even though the athlete is improving their own performance, they depend on what the judges perceive and the score they perceive. So there you can see how it's not 100% in the athlete's control. And the third one would be process goals that are more focused on techniques. And let's go, for example, following the same example of track and field, the starting position when you're going to start running. That's very technical, and you would analyze, okay, the right foot, having to make sure it's established, making sure your arms are moving the correct way as you practiced. So there it's very specific, and there it is 100% in your control. Now, the benefits of these goals, they're making goal settings and just simply goals. It's an enormous amount, and there's different examples. I'm going to mention a few. It helps you with your personal growth. It helps increase motivation. You see yourself progressing. There are more. It helps you with your focus. It provides feedback. This one's very important, and this is going to be like my chain reaction to the next topic, and it helps big goals easier. You could be wondering, what are big goals? Like, isn't a goal a goal? But no, there are different types of goals, parting from the outcome, the performance, and the process. There are also long-term goals, short-term goals, and daily goals. It is very important to understand these three dimensions of goals, because as I like to see them, I like to see it as stepping stones or as a staircase. And here I'm going to show you or explain a little handout I have. Sorry, you can't really see it that well, but it's a staircase from the start, where we would be actually at the moment. The top would be the long-term goal, and everything in between would be either short-term goals or daily goals. So, long-term goal, these goals basically explain themselves, but just to go over them, long-term goals is the accomplishment you want to achieve, what you want to achieve. It's the ultimate goal. The short-term goals are basically goals of how you're going to achieve that. For example, I want to be the best chess player in Puerto Rico. My short-term goal should be winning certain tournaments in Puerto Rico, or just improving my performance in tournaments in Puerto Rico. Let's say I want to win next week's tournament. That would be a short-term goal, aspiring to be the long-term goal. And then the other type of goal is daily goals, which would be, what are you going to do every day in order to achieve that? In order to achieve short-term goals and in order to achieve long-term goals. So let's say to achieve my short-term goal, I'm going to practice every day for 2 hours. I'm going to do 20 tactics, and see how that every day will help me accomplish my short-term goal, and how accomplishing my short-term goal will then help me achieve my long-term goal. Hence the reason of the staircase, they're stepping stones. And you're going step by step in order to achieve that goal. Sorry. Now, it is important to know how we make these goals and how we establish these goals, because we just can't say, oh, I'm gonna be that, and I'm gonna do that. Like, there needs to be a foundation of where your goals are coming from, and that's basically the goal setting guidelines. There's a very good anagram that we tend to use in this field, and it's the SMART anagram. I'm not going to display it now because you probably won't be able to see it 100%, but basically, SMART, simple word, easy to remember. But each letter has a meaning. Where the S is specific, our goals need to be specific in a performance, because if we're not specific, it's basically out in the open, and there's nothing really, we can't really be 100% focused on something that's not specific. Measurable, 110% important, because these goals need to be able to be measurable in order to lock in our progress, to see how we're doing, and just simply know how it's going, because if it's not measurable, then we won't know where we're headed. The A means adjustable, very, very important and often overlooked. Goals need, like, if you can't achieve a goal, or you see some type of obstacle, you need to be able to adjust that goal and adjust your strategies towards it in order to achieve it. Because if you don't adjust it, then you're gonna hit a dead end, and that the process is done. Because if you can't adjust it, then where are you gonna go? And you could easily get unmotivated and easily forget about your goal. These goals need to be realistic, very important. Because we just can't go and say mention a goal being, I'm gonna lose 30 pounds in a day. That's more on a biological factor, but it's a great example. It's biologically impossible, highly impossible, to lose 30 pounds in a day. And there's when we need to start establishing our goals. Okay, I will lose 5 pounds per week. That is a short-term goal. And a daily goal could be, I'm going to eat my 5 meals per day. That's a daily goal that will work towards that short-term goal, which will eventually help you to the long-term goal of losing 30 pounds. See, it's a stepping stone, which is hence the reason I love to use the staircase. It's a very easy example for me to visualize it, and I hope it's easy for you guys too. And timed. The T in SMART for time. I mentioned before, remembering the importance of the time frame. And we could see it in this example that I just mentioned of wanting the weight loss. Sorry. Wanting the weight loss. We have to establish a time, because if I say, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 10 years, it's pretty hard to be motivated with that time frame, because it's like, I can just let go, not focus on it. I still have 9 other years. Like, that's not what we want to do with this process. But if you say, I want to lose 30 pounds by the end of summer, for example, there you have a time frame, and there you're going to keep yourself motivated, be like, right, I got to achieve that. That's my time frame. So there, it's very important for that. And it also helps to keep it realistic, because, as I mentioned, you just can't say, oh, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in a day, as I mentioned before. It's just impossible. And that's the importance of having a realistic and timed goal, or goal setting. Now, that's an anagram to explain some of our guidelines for when we make our goals. There are other ones. As I mentioned before, it is important to establish long-term, short-term, and daily goals, because they work together, stepping stone. And the same thing for the outcome, performance, and process goals. This one's a little more complex to understand, because why can't we do that? But put this into scenario. If all our goals are focused on wanting to come in first place, wanting to come in first place, wanting to come in first place, these would be outcome goals. But let's say the athlete doesn't come in first place any of those tournaments or any of those races. It is very highly that you're going to get unmotivated. It's going to be a very difficult process. Like, how are you going to go through? Which is the importance of having the other types of goals to help you achieve that goal. So they all work together. Positive wording. That one is very, very important and often overlooked. So, but what is positive wording? Instead of saying or establishing a goal of, I'm not going to get nervous when I go up to bat, for example. Those are negative thoughts flowing through your head, which is also a technique, mind I say, of the mental skills. Positive self-talk against these nervous feelings or this anxiety. If you go up to the plate saying, oh, I'm nervous, you're going to be nervous. And this is where it comes into the perspective of the goal. Instead of saying, oh, I don't want to go up nervous. That's a negative connotation. Instead, you should use, I'm going to go up to bat confident, I'm going to go up to bat powerful, I'm going to go up to bat strong. You see there's a difference in the positive versus negative, and we tend to want to stay on the positive aspect because it's always better to be positive than negative, even though it is still noted that negative formats or negative thoughts can be used for a positive outcome performance. Another one of the key guidelines, strategies to achieve the goals. I mentioned this before, but I just want to highlight it again. It is very important to notice the strategies you are using to try to achieve your goals, because if at any moment a strategy is not working and you continue to use that strategy, there's not going to be a progress because it's not working for you. Here comes the importance of developing new strategies. For example, let's say we're track and field runners and I'm trying to improve how fast I am. If I go to sprints and just practice sprints, that strategy may work for some time, but it's not always going to work. And instead, you may need to practice your resistance. You may need to practice your technique, for example, or just simply a different way of sprinting. It's, for example, I used to when I was an athlete, I used to go run at the beach. It's a little different technique. It's the same thing, but it felt more comfortable for me. I personally felt like I was getting more done, which is another important aspect. Like, the environment in which you are determining your goals and wanting to portray them and accomplish them is very important, because you can't just simply be in a very toxic environment, an unsupportive environment, because without support, not even your own support, it's going to be even more difficult to achieve these goals, and that's not what we want. We want it to be the most comfortable, the most fun, the most spontaneous thing in order to achieve these goals. Like, I live on by the saying that we learn better when we're having fun, and I love that aspect, and it's something I live on. It's my mantra, basically, if you want to put it that way. Another one of the guidelines, write goals down. Very important, because it's one thing to just say, oh, I just want to be the best chess player, but that's just me thinking it. It is important for me to write it down so I know, hey, this is my goal, this is what I want to achieve. Because if you don't write it down, it's easy to forget. And that's where a famous saying comes, is ink it, don't think it. Because, again, you just simply think about it. It's like, oh, I had that thought, it's nothing. If you write it down, let's say on your phone, it can even be on your phone, anywhere you want. You can write it on your window, on your wall, on your mirror, and you see it like, yeah, that's what I want to do. You're right. So writing your goals down is very important. This is an aspect that when I was growing up, I really didn't know about, and I really wish I did. And it's to evaluate your own progress and see how you're doing. Because if you determine these goals and you don't evaluate your progress and how you're looking to accomplish it, what are you really doing? It is important to keep track of how you're doing, what goals you're accomplishing, what is working for you, what isn't working for you, because you need to work. It's just how life is. There are different techniques, different scenarios in wanting to achieve what you want to achieve. And a great example, or a great way to use this aspect is through journals. It may sound dumb at first, it may sound easy, but they really, really do help, and it's very self-reflective because it's something you work on your own. You write down how you were feeling, you write down how you were doing. It's very simple, and I love it. I recommend it to everyone. Now, these are all the guidelines we should be looking out. And one last thing before closing up, there are things we need to look out for too when using our goals. And it's important to not set too many goals. If we set too many goals, we can easily feel overwhelmed. Sorry about that. We can easily feel overwhelmed, like, oh, what am I gonna accomplish? What am I gonna accomplish? What am I gonna accomplish? Like, if there's too many, maybe too much. Like, there's always the same quality over quantity. It doesn't really has some type of relation to what we're discussing today, but it's just simply too many things can make you feel overwhelmed that you cannot accomplish what you really want to accomplish. Vague goals. An empty goal or a goal without meaning is basically a step you're not taking. Every goal you make needs to have purpose, it needs to have reasoning, and it needs to be focused on what you want to achieve. Unrealistic goals, we already talked about this. Keeping them realistic is very important. If you make an unrealistic goal, it's easy to get unmotivated when you don't accomplish it. Let's say the example we were discussing before about the weight loss. If you say you want to lose 30 pounds in a day and you don't lose them, you're going to feel sad. You're going to feel unmotivated, which is why we need to keep them realistic. And just to close out, goal setting is not for everyone. Any technique is not for everyone. It's just as any other thing in life. Not everything is for everyone. It is important to know that, because if the goal settings aren't working for you, it's not a bad thing. There are other techniques. There are other ways to approach this same technique if you want to try it again. And it's just like the mental skills are just as physical skills. If one thing isn't working for you physically, there's a thousand other ways to try it. Let's say, for example, resistance. Let's say running in a treadmill, to make it easier. If you don't like running in a treadmill, to improve your resistance, you can just go run at the track. It's the same thing, same process. So don't feel bad if you're not getting used to it. Don't feel bad if you're not accomplishing it. There are other techniques for you. Sorry. And this is the last thing, I promise, to let you guys go. This is going back to like the journal thing. This is a motivational calendar I enjoy using a lot. And notice that I said the motivation aspect. That is a different topic from goal setting, but you see how it's related. Like they definitely hold each other by the hands. And that calendar, I tend to like to use it because you set a goal. Let's say going back to the same example of weight loss, you set the goal of losing 30 pounds at the end of summer. Well, this calendar, you keep a record of the day, and there's different things, different symbols, or you can make your own, of what you accomplished that day and what you accomplished every day in order to achieve your goal. For example, if we have in these two rows 14 days of positive reinforcements that we did something in pursuit of our goal. Let's say a gold star, that is one of my symbols I enjoy using, which reads, you feel proud of what you have been accomplishing. Imagine seeing 14, 21 stars on your calendar throughout your days, and it's like, damn, that's motivating me, I'm accomplishing it. So it's just great. I love using my calendar. I have a calendar for almost everything in my life. So yeah, basically, I hope you guys really like the talk. I'm here, anything you guys need, feel free to message me. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for coming.